So this is the year where Jess just falls apart. Hi everybody, I'm Jessica Nicole Dickerson, aka JND, and welcome back to another video. So in today's video, I'm going to do a wrap up for everything that I read in August. We're already through to September, but you know, better late than never. That's what I always say because I'm always late. Where's my phone? Okay, so let's get into the books. I obviously am on a roll and don't remember anything that I read, so I'm gonna look it up. Thank you, Goodreads, for saving the day. The first book I managed to finish in the month of August was Forest of a Thousand Lanterns by Julie C. Dow, and I gave this book a 4-star on Goodreads. I feel that it is more of a 3.5 for me personally. It is a villain coming of age story. We get to see this character change and transform into something else. It was very interesting, but I feel like I'm trying to get a little bit harder on my book standards, just because I feel like when I read a 5-star book, it like blows your mind. You know how 5 stars are. Blows your mind. And then there's all these books that I keep rating 4 stars, but it's like, are they really 4 stars? No, they're more like a 3 or 3.5. And I say I kind of took away points for this book just because I was not personally very interested in the main character, and I believe it's because she was conflicted on whether or not to do good or to follow her love, and whether to follow the path that she feels that in her bones that she should follow. So she was conflicted, but I also didn't feel like I knew her as a person. Like I didn't know what she really actually wanted to do, or it was just complicated. And I feel like it's because I don't want to give away the story, the whole reason behind the story and why she's struggling to choose and make decisions for herself. But I feel like because of that complex narrative, it was just, I didn't feel connected to her and I didn't care about her decisions. And because it was kind of like a fairy tale retelling, I already knew the ending. I already knew she was going to be a villain. It's obvious from the beginning of the story. So I wasn't really invested in her or the story. But the writing was so eerie and perfect, and oh, I really loved the writing. The writing was really cool. But yeah, so I gave it a 3.5. Still a great read. The next book I read was 4 Dead Queens by Astrid Scott. I can't do names, just bypass that. I'm a flop. Names, I flop on names so hard, so ignore that. Please. So this one I also gave around a 3.5. So I found, again, the writing was really nifty, and the world building, especially for 4 Dead Queens, was so amazing. Like I kind of want another story, but like with a different plot, because the world was so interesting in how they explained the 4 different kind of countries and how they coexist. The murder thriller aspect of it, I found it to be pretty thrilling, but I found there to be this kind of forced romance, and this character, the main character herself, was witty, but I found it to be that witty where it's like, you trying to be witty, aren't you? You're trying to be cute and romantic, and but it's not. I'm not vibing with it. I'm not feeling it doesn't feel genuine. I can't find words. Yeah, but I did like also the twist at the end. I did kind of see it coming, but I really liked how it did unfold. But the world itself, I want another 4 Dead Queens, but like a continuation in this world. That would be so cool. If you want a cool world that's different, I highly recommend this book, highly. And you know, the thriller story is like, okay, just another thriller, but the world, so cool. And the next book I managed to read was Heartless by Marissa Meyer. Wow. You know, I should cancel myself, honestly. So I gave this book 5 stars. This was incredible, everything I was looking for, and mostly because if you pick up this book, you should expect the quirkiness that comes with Alice in Wonderland. It's an Alice in Wonderland retelling, but from the perspective of the Queen of Hearts. So interesting. And Catherine as a character, there's an airplane going by. Excuse yourself. Catherine as a character was so interesting, and at every point I was questioning, like, is she actually gonna become this evil queen? Like, I'm confused. She had a drive, she wanted her own bakery shop, and every decision she made was so clear. I get that some characters have questions and they don't know exactly what they want to do, but at the same time I feel like there has to be some balance of whether or not what you know and what you don't know, and just having some little spark. I want to see a spark. Like, people have passions, or they have a lack of passions, or they're doing something that they don't want to do and they want to do something else. I just feel like she was a well-rounded character, and she also had her internal conflicts and things like that of whether she should do what she wants or what her parents want. It was just, her complexity was great, and the world was so much fun. Obviously, it was like Mad Hattery and just so super kooky, and the Cheshire Cat was in it, and it was really fun. And there was a little bit of a mystery going on too that she had to solve, and it was a really good time. I highly recommend the audiobook for it because, woo, it was so good. Like, the next book I managed to finish was Not Your Perfect Mexican Daughter by Erica Sanchez. So this book I gave a 4 stars, like a solid 4 stars. I felt so connected to this personally. Her sister, the main character, her sister had just passed, and the family's grieving, and we kind of just see the family complexities. I really liked how grief was talked about in this book. There's also trigger warnings for self-harm, and the daughter's just trying to figure herself out. So it's very much a coming of age story, but it's also kind of like the Poet X, where we also have this mother-daughter relationship that we are learning about, and also about the father. And there's also really good rep for like going to a therapist and seeking counseling. The only thing that kind of faltered for me was that there was this little bit of a romance in this story that I don't think benefited the story exactly, but it was also very realistic, so I didn't mind that, because both of them in the end were like, oh, we'll see what happens. Like, it wasn't like I'm in love, so don't go in expecting that, you know? It's not like a total romance, but there is some romance. But yeah, I don't want to like give too much away, but I love the family dynamics. If you like a complex family dynamics, this book is good for that. It had me crying. I felt so touched. The next book that I read was To All the Boys That I Loved Before, whatever that long title is, by Jenny Han. I finally read it. I rewatched the movie and I was like, I really want to read this book. I'd want to dive into it, and I gave it a 4 stars. 4. So I believe this was just a fun, quirky, romantic book that I really enjoyed. Very cute, very wholesome. I really have no comments. I feel like everyone knows about this book, and I'm finally catching up and finally getting a chance to read it. But yeah, I really liked all the characters. I really enjoyed the plot. It wasn't complex by any means, but it was cute. And even though I have seen the movie, it was still enjoyable to read the book and see how it was a little different from the movie. The next thing I read was a manga, and I have no idea how to pronounce it, but it was a really funny manga where this girl ends up being the basketball team's like manager, because she kind of likes one of the basketball team members. But then this freshman comes in and she's a sophomore, and he like really likes her, and it's just this kooky story, and it's very like romantic, and I really enjoyed it. I gave it a 4 stars. I definitely want to continue reading it. I just kind of, my reading game fell at that point, so I didn't continue reading it, sadly. But it was quite enjoyable, if I do say so myself. I do want to continue it, and it's not complex by any means. It's a 4 star just because of the enjoyment factor, and it was just fun and lighthearted to read, so yeah. Okay, so the next book that I read, okay, so I loved To All the Boys I Loved Before so much that I immediately picked up P.S. I Still Love You by Jenny Han, and I gave this one 5 stars. And to be honest, I don't want Peter to win. I don't. I feel like he's a baby. I'm sorry. Come for me, Peter stans. I'm so sorry. But John Ambrose? Why is he an underdog, and why can't I marry him? I'm also really hyped for the fact that Jordan Fisher is playing like John Ambrose. I'm very happy. Like, I know in the book John Ambrose is a white guy, but I'm so happy that it's Jordan Fisher, because I could totally see him. Like, I just feel like it's gonna be an Obama moment with the tan suit, and I'm in love. A hardcore fangirling. Okay, but yeah, the plot was great, and I loved the tension, to be honest. It was so funny, and just, it was so heartwarming. It's everything you want from a romantic comedy, and I really enjoyed it. So I'm really looking forward to the 3rd installment. I don't want Peter to win. Let's just say that. I can't. I'm just, my little heart. I need John Ambrose to be happy. please. Okay, so the next book I managed to read was The Astonishing Color of After by Emily X.R. Pan. So this I gave a 3.5. I know a lot of people rave about this on booktube especially, but I just personally did not connect very much to the character. Like, of course she was going through so much. Her mom just passed and she is trying to kind of find herself or ground herself in reality throughout this book, and she's facing so much grief, and there's so much history that she doesn't understand because she doesn't know her grandparents, and she goes and travels to visit them, and it's so complex. But at the same time, I don't know if it's because I was listening to the audiobook, but we were switching from past to present to past to present to, like, there was a lot of timelines going on. I had to keep going back, and I never really have to like go back in an audiobook, but I had to slow down the audiobook, keep going back and forth, and I was like, I feel like this is something you should physically read because I was confused, but then I would re-listen and grab onto the story and be like, okay, I'm following, and I just wasn't connected to the character again. So it's kind of like the first book I mentioned, Forest of a Thousand Lanterns, where I just like this girl, and the thing is, she had a passion, she likes art, she knows herself well, but I feel like, I don't know, I didn't see her. Like, I don't have a picture of her in my head, and it's not because they didn't explain what she looks like, but I just don't see her as a person. She just seems like someone who was really into art, had a crush on a guy, and was figuring out her mom, and I feel really bad saying that. I just didn't connect with her. I didn't, and it's not because I need to have a personal aspect that I relate to at all, because I know she's from a different like ethnic background, but it's more so the fact that I just, as a character, reading from her perspective, I wasn't engaged. I didn't care about what was happening, like the whole bird mystery, and like the girl that she was talking to that was helping her translate with her grandparents. There was all that stuff happening. I just didn't care about it. I didn't have any drive to like, why am I still reading this? I feel bad saying that, but it was beautifully written, and I actually, like, I cared a lot about the mom's story, and I kind of wish we got more of that. And I also kind of was let down by her story because I was expecting a lot more to like happen or be revealed about her life, but it makes sense. So I gave it a 3.5. It was still interesting, and it's just my enjoyment factor kind of was lowered just because I didn't care too much for the characters. I'm so sorry. So sorry. The next book I managed to finish was Interment by Samira Ahmed, I think is how you say it. I gave this a 3.5. 3.5 I think is going to start becoming my like average rating. But yes, I found this story, I wasn't totally disappointed by this. I was enjoying it for most of the book. I thought the beginning was very interesting in how they built up to getting to the camps and things like that. I just found there was a love aspect or a care for another character that was just kind of unbelievable in my professional opinion, because I'm a professional now. But yeah, I felt that some of the character development was either lacking or just forced and unbelievable, if that makes sense. Like, in this camp, there are guards who are there to make sure the internment people or the internees follow the rules and stuff, and there's a relationship that grows between those two groups, and it's just, I didn't find it to be believable. So it took away my enjoyment by a lot, especially the ending. I was like, I don't care about this. But I feel like the beginning was leading to such a good build-up and getting people to fight and stuff. And I also feel like the parents in the camp, there was like a relationship between parents who were like, let's do good, let's like be healthy and do what we need to survive, and then the kids were like, no. So I don't know how believable that it is that only the kids were up to mischief and like trying to figure out stuff. Kind of believable. And there were some parents who like agreed but didn't do anything. They were like, yeah, you go kids. I'm like, what? Like, I don't know. There were some just unbelievable factors, which is hard because this is like a kind of fictionalized future that's possible. So I just feel like if it was grounded less in the characters' choices and more in the world, if we focused more on the world, it would have hit a little harder, if that makes sense. And it was also really hard because I did connect so much with the beginning. I was like, oh my god, I feel this so deeply. wow, like, I'm not Muslim, but I could see this happening. Like, I could definitely see that beginning scene happening. The beginning sequence of communities turning against community members just because of their race and because of what their government says and things like that, or religious practice, not just race. But yeah, so I did still find it quite interesting. I just kind of wish it pushed the envelope that it was trying to do more than focus on the actual character, like, person, if that makes sense. It's hard. I can't judge. I could not have written that book at all, and I thought it was really good. And I think it's something that people need to, like, read and explore and realize that by doing nothing, you are doing something. You're validating what others are doing. So always say something. Like, I feel like this is a good book for middle schoolers to read, if that makes sense. I don't know if it should be young adult. I feel like this would have been a good middle grade, just because it focuses a lot on the person, but there is a lot of, like, violence that happens in it. So I don't know. I feel many which ways. Many which ways. That makes perfect sense, Jess. Okay, so the next book I managed to finish was Black Enough. Whoop whoop. So I gave this a 4-star. I'm actually surprised because a lot of the stories I was giving 3 stars to, but then in the end I started giving more 4 stars, so I felt that the end was way stronger. I honestly, like, there were so many stories. I'm trying to think. There was a couple that were so fascinating. Like, there was one where this guy was talking to a family member in the past, like, through his mirror, and it was like his past family member was like a slave, and the black guy's like, don't worry, you're gonna have a black president one day, and the slave guy's laughing, and it was like super interesting. There was a lot of good stories for LGBTQ plus members. I felt like there was this really cute kind of summer romance that happened. There was also a lot of female empowerment stories that I also really enjoyed. It was really interesting. Some of the stories did kind of go flat, but I do have to say none of the stories were below a 2 stars. So I definitely feel like this is something you could pick up and kind of browse through. And I also think it's something that should be just available in schools and discussed in, like, conversation, because there was a theme to every story and there was a purpose, and I feel like it's healthy for younger kids who are black or mixed to kind of read and, like, discuss with their friends and be like, hey, what would you do in this situation, you know? So I think that would have been fun. I feel like it would have been interesting to be, like, in a buddy read with that book, more so than just reading it by yourself. My recommendation. Okay, and then the last book that I managed to read was Along the Ride, by, I think her name is Mimi Grace. It was adult romance and I loved it, but I am gonna make a separate video for that, so hang tight. All you gotta know is that it may have or may not have gotten 5 stars. And then for the POC-a-thon, I did manage to read 4 books. So yeah, Astonishing Cover of After, Interment, Black Enough, and Along the Ride. So pretty proud with that. I really struggled to continue reading once school started, and I feel like it's going to be a common theme for the rest of this semester. I'm entering my senior year, so I have to be an adult. I have to make adult decisions. I'm doing career development courses as an actor. We are preparing ourselves for the future misery of never being casted again, or possibly getting casted, or getting casted and then fired, and all the things that come with that. So yeah. If you guys want to hear more about that career development stuff and senior year stuff, comment down below. Let me know. I'd be interested to help out anybody who needs the help, because, you know, I for sure need it. Yeah. Well, I can't thank you guys enough for watching this video and subscribing to my channel and liking my videos and being here for me, even though I'm a hot freaking mess. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, guys. I will see you in the next video. Bye.